Agent Team Ban.
What's cracking, ladies and gentlemen? FortyeniN coming at you with another community shoutcast for the UGC Dota League Season 2. We're loading into game number 1 of the Best of 2 series for the Eastern Invite, featuring mate up against the Blokes of Deceit. Blokes of Deceit, they're the ones with first pick, so it will be interesting to see which hero they decide to let slip through the first batting stage. This is the first series I've actually casted with Blokes of Deceit. Mate, they're a team I've casted a fair amount of. Even though they have switched up their roster for this game, they do have Shai Halud taking the place of Mule, who currently isn't available for their roster. And mate, they're actually a Dunedin-based team, so I actually personally know these players in real life. Will be interesting to see what they decide to pull out of the bag, as I've opted to choose the Dire side as the home team. Mate, do get to choose which side they prefer, and mate, they seem to have taken a preference for Dire side in all the games I've casted with them so far. Going in with the Viper first ban, or Blokes of Deceit, opting to ban out the Razor as well as the Brewmaster. So far, both the bans coming up from Blokes of Deceit, very 6.81. You've got the Razor as well as the Brewmaster, two incredibly powerful heroes in the 8-1 Deathball meta. Due to their sheer amount of versatility that they provide, since Razor, you can throw him effectively into any lane so long as that you have numbers parity, and he's always able to find a great deal of farm just because of how effective he is at controlling the lane, utilizing the static link, or in the mid lane using the plasma field to be able to push out the wave to guarantee rune control. Whereas Pandaria and Brewmaster, you can throw him either as a tri-lane farmer, an off-lane in a 1v1, or even 1v3. Although most conventionally he's run in that mid lane, he does offer you a massive amount of teamfight presence for the first 35 minutes of the game, until the enemy cores start to pick up BKBs, and that's the point where he starts to taper off. Mate, opting to ban out Ogre Magi as their second ban, as they go for a Tidehunter first pick, while Blokes of Deceit opt to pick up the Death Prophet. Death Prophet's a hero that, despite being heavily nerfed, she's been nerfed 3 times in the last few patches, still is considered a top tier hero. She's picked up in almost every game, and that's because she performs a very similar function to the Luna, but although at the same time she makes up for Luna's biggest weakness, which is her fragility, by having a much more powerful laning stage and a much more teamfight impact, just due to the fact that Death Prophet only has to build survivability in order to deal her damage. So Death Prophet and Luna are very similar in the sense that they're teamfight oriented heroes that have a massive amount of presence. It forces the enemy team to always prioritize the Death Prophet every single fight, otherwise they're going to be eating a massive amount of damage from that exorcism, and a well-timed Grave Silence can actually turn the tide, especially against the Tidehunter. If you could disable him from being able to get off an optimal Ravage and be able to scatter, force him to blow his Ravage once the Kraken Shot pops, really can change the outcome of a team fight, since Tidehunter is going to be dependent on being able to get that initial Blink Ravage. Although that being said, Tidehunter, the reason why he's usually often banned in the first banning stage is because he is so versatile. Especially in the Dire side, you have easy access to the Ancients, and he's one of the few offlane heroes that can recover very nicely if you are able to completely shut him down. So Tidehunter, very powerful hero in the sense that not only is he a fantastic initiator, he can also counter-initiate very effectively, since he's got the Kraken Shot to guarantee he gets a Ravage off. So unless they decide to pick up something like a Silencer, who's just been banned out, or a Disruptor to catch the Tidehunter inside the Static Storm, he's always going to be guaranteed to get that Ravage off, and so it's something that Blokes of Deceit have to work around. And I've opted to pick up the Faceless Void, and so this is a hero that works well against the Tide, because the Chronosphere will lock him in place long enough for you to be able to kill him, without him being able to get off the Ravage.
Team ban.
Mate, now opting to ban out the Skywrath Mage. Skywrath Mage considered to be the most powerful support hero in the game, as well as in the current meta for both 8-2 as well as 8-1, and that's due to the fact that he has a massive amount of versatility and a huge amount of impact at every stage of the game. You can run him either as your 5 position, you can use him to set up ganks using Concussive Shot, or if you have a much more powerful disable oriented support such as a Rubik, Skywrath Mage can then alternate as your damage dealer with the Arcane Bolt. So he does provide you a lot of flexibility, as well as the fact that he's one of the few supports that could actually burst down a lot of core position heroes and man-fight other supports and bring them down, due to the Mystic Flare Ancient Seal combination. Blokes of Deceit opting to ban out the Silencer as well as the Spectre, so all 4 of their bans, heavy teamfight heroes. So Blokes of Deceit are giving away a massive amount of their draft with these first 2 picks, and with their bans, Faceless Void most likely going to be run in the offlane, although a lot of teams have been experimenting with running Void as your 1-position farmer, which is the conventional role that he used to be played, before things started to get a little bit hairy with the TI4 meta. And so the rationale behind the Faceless Void and the Death Prophet is if you happen to catch Death Prophet inside your own Chronosphere for whatever reason, so long as she's popped Exorcism, it isn't the end of the world. And if you do leave Death Prophet free inside the Exorcism, inside the Chronosphere, then the Exorcism and Crypt Swarm will enable you to decimate whoever's called inside. Mate, because there's a Faceless Void pick, they're forced to ban out the Skywrath Mage as well as the Witch Doctor. This is the drafting advantage of the Void, is he forces the opposing drafter to ban out as support heroes that synergize exceptionally well within the Void ulti, and also forces you to build your entire lineup against the Void. And so Omni Knight is a hard counter to the Faceless Void as well as the Tidehunter, because if Faceless Void doesn't catch out either of those two heroes, their ultimates will be to render his Chronosphere relatively ineffective. If he doesn't catch out Omni Knight presses out the Guardian Angel, Void suddenly says my damage, he just starts hitting them, not doing anything at all inside the Chronosphere. It's going to be eating the Purification, and then you turn with the Ravage coming in from the Tidehunter. If you don't catch up the Tide, then Tide blinks around just at the outskirts of the Chronosphere, throws out his Ravage, catches Void and perhaps the rest of his team, buys yourself enough time for you to be able to outlast that Chronosphere. Since Faceless Void, the whole concept of the hero is every single time you Chronosphere, you have to kill a hero inside the Chronosphere, otherwise you set your team a massive opportunity cost where they could have picked up a much more consistent late game carry. Since Faceless Void, if you're not able to start a fight 4v5 every single fight, you lose a huge amount of the hero's strength. Since with the Mask of Madness active in these early engagements before he gets a BKB, he's going to pop, especially to the Lion Omni Knight combination. And yeah, nah mate, going with the hero that they've made famous, at least in the Australian New Zealand scene, the Phantom Assassin is going to be run in the mid lane. They love to run very aggressive dual lanes, most likely going to be something we could actually be seeing a Tidehunter in conjunction with the Omni Knight. Blokes of Deceit instantly countering the PA pick with the Necrophos. Necrophos is a hero that's been seeing a huge amount of play ever since Team Secret really started to innovate the hero, especially the Necrophos Wisp combination. In this case, you've got the Necrophos Crystal Maiden. So I'm going to assume just because they've picked up a Necrophos, that's going to be the offlane Void with the Necrophos Crystal Maiden in the safe lane. And so the biggest strength of this is the fact that Crystal Maiden, much like a Sand King, makes incredibly efficient use of the jungle. With the fact that Frostbite has been reworked and buffed quite heavily, so the dot damage applies every half second as opposed to every second, it drastically speeds up your farming speed when Crystal Maiden rotates to the jungle. And so Crystal Maiden most likely going to be scaling Frostbite at 1. Usually you want to go for Nova because it gives you a lot more killing power, but the advantage of the Frostbite build is it gives you that flexibility, so if you're not able to find a kill, and since Necrophos lanes so well against melee heroes like the Tide because of the constant harassment from the Heartstopper aura, Crystal Maiden can rotate into the jungle, start stacking creeps, pulling them, clearing them out, find a fair amount of farm, in the same vein to the Sand King. Crystal Maiden can make very efficient use of the jungle, and then she can rotate across the map and be that invisible pressure to exert on the enemy team, because every single time she's missing, and she's going to be missing the vast majority of the game, at least for the first 20 minutes, it's going to put their enemy mid at risk of a sudden smoke rotation coming in from the Crystal Maiden. We've now got a Jakiro ban coming out from Yeah Nah Mate, just due to the sheer amount of teamfight impact coming out from the Blokes of Deceit. Their biggest weakness with that draft is it's all centered around teamfight. They actually have very little pick-off. Since Necrophos can't actually set up a gank on his own, it's the biggest weakness of the hero, since his only form of crowd control is going to be the Reaper Scythe. So long as Yeah Nah Mate are able to play keep away from the Necrophos and prevent him from getting in their face and throwing out the pulse, Necrophos doesn't have the movement speed or the snares to really be able to engage and deal damage on his own to go for solo kills, unless if Yeah Nah Mate make a drastic misplay. So that means that the only real form of solo pick-off power they have that's guaranteed is going to be the Faceless Void. So if you're able to shut down the Void in the offlane, Blokes of Deceit, they actually have very little ganking presence. The Crystal Maiden can rotate in to go for a gank, but so far Blokes of Deceit, they've only got the very fragile Crystal Maiden. If they decide to go for the aggressive ganking route, they have to pick up a very aggressive support to synergize well with the Crystal Maiden. Otherwise, their emphasis is going to be on team fights. Yeah, nah, mate. They've got incredibly powerful counter initiation from the Ravage as well as the Guardian Angel coming in from the Omni Knight. So far as the draft is concerned, if the game does go late, that being said, both teams are actually fairly evenly matched. Just because of the fact that Necrophos, since he's going to be going for the Aghanim Scepter, it completely destroys the PA in the later stage of the game. Since a BKB, especially now that the fact that you can't purchase a new one to refresh the cooldown, once it drops to 5 seconds, if you get Reaper Scythe, not only are you eating the 30-second respawn timer, you don't have buyback. And because Yeah Nah Mate, the only form of reliable damage is currently coming in from the PA post the 30-minute mark. Since for the first 30 minutes they've got a fair amount of magic burst damage to work with the Tidehunter Ravage, as well as the Aligned Finger and the Omni Knight Purification, but past that point, they really are depending on the PA to do a lot of work. So Blokes of Deceit now opting to ban out Templar Assassins. The rationale behind that is they understand that the only way their lineup works in order to gain is based off tempo. So the Death Prophet in the mid lane has to be to secure a fair amount of farm, and Templar Assassin is one of the best heroes to deal with the Death Prophet, since at level 1 with the Refraction you're guaranteed to be able to win the last hitting war. Once you pick up level 2 with the side blade, you can start to actually harass Death Prophet, drive her out of the lane, and you could eat all the Crypt Swarms of the world because you've got the positive refraction charges to keep yourself hale and hearty. So we've got a Wraith King as well as an Earthshaker pickup coming in from Blokes of Deceit, and Earthshaker can be used very aggressively, so I love this pickup, especially since the Crystal Maiden mitigates Earthshaker's biggest weakness, which is his lack of early game mana. I'm going to quickly introduce the players from both teams. Over on the Blokes of Deceit, we've got TMT, who's going to be the mid lane Death Prophet, actually starting with herself. So a bit of an interesting build order coming in from her. You usually see tangos and no self, since you can't risk staying away from creep range for about 10 seconds for the self to really pay for itself, and you're going to be going for bottles as soon as possible. Hugo Muga going to be the Necrophos, already scaling with the Heartstopper Aura, so a very conventional build coming from him. We've got Alucard going to be the Crystal Maiden, and she's going to be rotating into the jungle for the majority of the time. NRC going to be the Earthshaker, he's going to be the 4 position, as Crystal Maiden is going to be the 5. Since Earthshaker really needs to pick up the Blink Dagger for him to be worthwhile in this game. And we've got Alex as the offlane faces Void. No safety ward actually being provided by the Crystal Maiden, so actually a slight misplay coming up from Alucard. Since Alex faces Void works as an offlane hero only against soft tri-lanes. If they have a lot of killing power, if they've got a way to lock him in place and kill him with enough CC, or if they can burst him down, which they most certainly can, especially with the line with the 2.5 second hex at level 1, Alex has actually got to be very careful in this lane. So over for the boys at Name, Cox, going to be what appears to be the 5 position line. Shai Halud, the Sand One of Doom, going to be the what looks like a core position Wraith King. Actually immediately starting with a magic stick recipe, bit of an unconventional build. You usually see the Wraith King opt for either the Quelling Blade if you're going to be that 1 position role, or a Stout Shield. Broda, the captain for the team, going to be the 4 position Omni Knight. Immediately starting with the TP scroll so he could rotate in to be able to provide assistance with either the Purification or the Repel. King Killer, the mid player, going to be the 2 position Phantom Assassin, starting with the Poor Man's Shield, being pulled 2 tangos to guarantee that he should be able to have a fairly easy time against TMT. And if you have a look at the base damage difference, there actually isn't too big of a difference, about 3 points of damage. So King Killer actually should be able to win the last city war, or at least break even against TMT. With that being said, TMT giving as good as he gets, utilizing that Crypt Swarm to harass him out, and UGTFO going to be the offlane Tidehunter, and the Earthshaker Illusions already harassing him back as well as the Heartstopper Aura. So this is going to be a really difficult lane for the Tide to do well. But that being said, Tidehunter does have the recovery mechanic of being a stack and clear out Ancient, something that very few offlane heroes can really capitalize. From Centaur Warrunner, if he gets shut down the lane, he really does taper off very quickly. He can rotate to the jungle, but it's very inefficient for him to do so. Broda, with the Purification, already takes out a good chunk of Alex's life, and Alex actually opted to go for Time Lock at 1. This is a huge mistake. If Name realized this, but Alex happens to hit Broda and get a Time Lock proc, they can instantly jump on him, and Alex doesn't have any way to escape. You've got the Lockdown coming in from Shai Halud, as well as the Impale or the Hex, most likely going to be Hex, never mind, looks like he opted to go for Earthspike at 1. Bit of an interesting build coming in from Cox. Usually, if you're against the solo offlaner, Hex is going to give you a lot more damage, since you're going to be getting in more right clicks with the 2.5 seconds of Hex time compared to the 1 second of the Earthspike, or 1.5, since you've got that 5 seconds when you're up in 0.5 seconds when you're up in the air. King Killer, if we have a look at last hits, actually is doing quite well against TMT. So the Poor Man's Shield mitigating the vast amount of damage that TMT can deal out to him, and because he is opted to go for the Null Talisman and doesn't have any real form of mana sustain at the moment until he gets his bottle, he can't rely on Crypt Swarm Harass to effectively zone out King Killer. But that being said, King Killer as well, still being harassed back quite handily, just due to the fact that TMT is a ranged hero. But he's burned through all his mana now, and King Killer playing very aggressively. Broda now rotating in, throws the Purification. Fortunately, not going to be in range, and TMT just gets zoned out a bit. He's going to pop himself, sit back, and give King Killer time to be there and takes the last hits. This is the reason why you usually don't want to go for a self. It's because you're forced out of the lane for 10 seconds in order for you to make good use of the self. You're giving the enemy mid time to be able to not only last hit but also to deny. And denies are a lot more important in a 1v1 matchup, especially in the mid lane. Just because if the Phantom Assassin is able to hit level 6 and get the coup de grace crit before you're able to get your level 3 exorcism so you can back away, it can be quite disastrous, especially if you have to get a lucky coup de grace crit. Broda and UGTFO going in. UGTFO opting to go for a very aggressive Tidehunter build. This could actually be first blood over on NRC's. Broda, with haste thrown, walks up to him, starts hitting NRC. Says, the Omniscience smites you. What are you going to do to this? NRC, out of money, he actually backs off, playing it very safe. UGTFO, thinking about committing for the kill. He's burned himself. So massive amount of regen being lost for the Earthshaker. And NRC, he's just going to be sitting pretty, hiding behind the tree line. Broda, he's done his business. He's just going to walk back over to the top lane. Or maybe he's going to sit back mid, provide a little bit more pressure. TMT not actually being a control King Killer at all. He does have more denies. But King Killer, the fact that he's able to find so much farm against a very powerful lane controlling hero like the Death Prophet means that he's going to get the earlier bottle. And since his supports have been playing a lot more active, with Broder constantly roaming around the map, rune control is going to be the name of the game for either of these mids to be able to start to snowball. Since the biggest weakness of the Death Prophet is like the Queen of Pain, because they're so heavily dependent on rune control, if you're able to prevent them from controlling runes and shut them down, they taper off very quickly. Shai Hulud duking up against Alex, who actually time leaps forward, and Shai Hulud actually could be taking the first death of the game. He's using the self, he's got the Ray Fire Blast available, turns around, stuns Alex, who actually doesn't have a Time Walk coming off cooldown. Broder now comes in, he doesn't have the Purification unfortunately, but Alex, he's just going to try to buy some time until he can Time Walk to safety. Broder actually trapping him inside the tree line, Time Walks into the trees, pops his self, but he's going to be stuck there for another 10 seconds. And Cox, if he knows where he is and catches them with a blind impale, I believe they do know where he is, they're just going to wait for him to try to Time Walk out and then go for a kill attempt. Cox throws out the cheeky impale, breaks his self, and Alex, he's just stuck in the tree line. Interesting thing to note, back when Faceless Void was first run as an offlane hero, this is the reason why, is because you could Time Walk into the tree line if you happen to get completely zoned in that lane. Alex able to keep himself alive, but he's now completely dry advantage. So the next kill attempt to go for him could actually be his last. TMT playing very aggressively in the mid lane. He has actually recovered quite nicely against King Killer. He's now starting to win back control of the mid lane, now that he's got the level 2 Cryptstorm to work with. King Killer, that being said, he's constantly got supports rotating around. If we have a look at the bottom lane, Hugo Muga, off to a good start. He's most likely going to be the mech carrier for his team, just especially with the way that Blokes of Deceit's lineup is centered around team fighting. If they could get that early mech, they could do a lot of work with it. Looks like Crystal Maiden, Elokan, just sitting in the mid lane, hasn't actually gotten a single point of experience. I'm not really too sure. He might actually even be AFK. So the Crystal Maiden hasn't actually even skilled anything. Something to note, Blokes of Deceit currently playing 4v5. As it looks like the Crystal Maiden hasn't contributed anything aside from buying her items, hasn't even skilled the aura, at least could have been providing that mana support for the rest of his team. So very interesting to note that we are witnessing a 4v5. Could turn to bite them in the ass. Cox going in with that Hex into the Impel, and that's going to be first blood. Shai Hulud with that magic wand as his first item. This is something that he likes to do a lot. Despite the fact that it's relatively inefficient, you usually want to go for something like a Stout Shield or a Quelling Blade. NRC gets knocked down by UGTFO with that Anchor Smash as they're diving deep and neat behind the tier 2. Hugo Muga left to his own devices, but the fact that UGTFO actually has more last hits than he does, and the fact that they've got a lot more kills on the map. TMT being smacked up by King Killer, no coup de grace crit yet. He's got the Stifling Dagger available and Broder there to provide the moral support, especially with the repel. Good luck to go for this, especially with Cox. He reveals himself a bit too early. He actually hesitated, and that cost him the kill. If he'd chosen to commit, he had the Stifling Dagger Blink Strike available for King Killer for them to be able to go in for that kill attempt. There should have at least been a drive TMT out of the lane if they weren't able to achieve the kill. Still completely baffled by the fact that Alucard, not even present in the game, hasn't even skilled anything. Usually if you've got the AFK player, you expect to pause, you expect them to at least skill the aura, so you get some kind of benefit from the hero. But as of now, Alucard actually not really doing anything for his team. That could turn to bite them in the ass, especially since Crystal Maiden, she's a hero where you have to create as much space and pressure in the first 20 minutes. Because of the fact that she does have 2 very powerful soft crowd control spells for you to be able to set up ganks for other heroes. And the fact that she's constantly going to be missing from the map, since she could always utilize the jungle as a way to catch up and maintain some form of golden as well as experience parity. Crystal Maiden, very potent hero being able to set up these ganks, especially since you've got NRC with the Shaker, so you can use the Frostbite to set up for a good fissure block, and then have TMT going for the kill. They've got a lot of ways to be able to control and kill this Phantom Assassin, but they haven't done so, and yeah, no, mate. Well, the support's constantly being mobile. Bro, they're just camping the rune. He knows that if he could prevent TMT from getting any runes, force him to bottle crow, then King Killer's going to be having a good time. And because Death Prophet has to completely crush this lane, if Blokes of Deceit are going to be having a good chance of being able to win this game, especially considering the fact that they're playing 4v5. King Killer, he's happy to break even, because he knows that the game goes late, especially once he picks up that level 2 coup de grace, he's going to be stepping all over the supports. TMT actually picks up a regen rune, so he's got enough sustain to keep himself in the lane for a little while. NRC, he eats a Stifling Dagger. Broda is standing there. Fissure flies through from King Killer. Purification as well. NRC, he could be taking a death. We've got another Stifling Dagger, and King Killer smacks him down. RZA, Gizza, and the King Killer. Stabs him in the eye. Well, Shai Halud looks like he's got the hand of Midas flying up to him. Midas is a fantastic pickup on the Wraith King, due to the fact that Wraith King, as a carry, he lacks two big factors. A, which is the attack speed, and B is the fact that Wraith King, you want to get your level 2, level 3 ultimate as soon as possible, just to cut down on the downtime so you can constantly be fighting. Since the level 3 reincarnate with the 60-second cooldown means that it's going to be up pretty much every single fight. And so constantly having to deal with two Wraith Kings a fight, especially when he's going to be that one position role, and he'll eventually reach the point of critical mass, where he's got so many items and he's hitting so hard that you have to kill him, otherwise he'll just step all over your backline heroes. But at the same time, because he's got that level 3 reincarnate and because he's so beefy, you don't actually have enough resources to be able to kill him twice in the fight without getting completely butchered by the Phantom Assassin being able to jump you, and by the Titan being able to set up a good Ravage. UGTFO, Arcane boots it up as well as what looks like a Ring of Health, so he could be going for an early Pipe of Insight to mitigate the impact of the Death Prophet as well as the Necrophos. Looks like Broda is TPing into the mid lane as UGTFO goes in, splits NRC. You've got Cox in the back line. He could actually walk himself a Ravage. He does. He ravages TMT. TMT should be taking a death very quickly as King Killer smacks him down. NRC as well. Gets caught down with the Impale. Courier actually now flying to the enemy base, but never mind. Looks like that was the die side Courier. We had a TP coming in from Alex. Quickly cancelled. Looks like Shai Halud stunned him. Never mind. Looks like Alex actually decided to cancel that as he didn't want to go into certain death. Alex is going for the conventional Faceless Void offlane build where you prioritize the time lock to maximize your killing power. Since the fact that time lock does double damage inside the Chronosphere, that's the only way the offlane Void really works, is you have to wait until level 6, play passive if need be, if you're getting heavily outclassed by the enemy offlaner, and then you can look to set up kills once you hit 6. And with that maxed out time lock, every single time you crow a target, especially a squishy hero like the Lion, you've got a very good chance of being able to bring them down. Shai Halud, eating a few right clicks, but he's got the hand of Midas. Holla, get more dollar, turns the creep into gold. Rotates back in the lane. Looks like he's actually opting to max out the Mortal Strike second with just a value point in the aura, so he can man fight against Alex a lot more effectively. Interesting thing to note, he actually hasn't skilled up his Reincarnate. This is a very next level play coming in from Shai Halud, as he realizes that if he gets caught in a position his teammates aren't able to get there in time, and he dies and wastes the Reincarnate, that's a 4-minute window of opportunity you give to the enemy team. Hugo Muga gets gushed on, then gets jumped on with a dagger from King Killer, turns into a frog. Broda walks, he's got the Purification, decides to give it to UGTFO. This smacks him down. UGTFO looks like he's actually rushing what looks like the Refresher Orb. The biggest weakness of this build is Titan actually doesn't have enough mana to be able to double Ravage and to be able to use anything else. And so it really turns him to a one-trick pony, but that being said, 2 Ravages this early on in the game can be game-breaking. Looks like the Radiant were able to seize the first tower of the game as Death Prophet, doing what Death Prophet does best. The instant the enemy mid rotates away from the lane, much like the Dragon Knight or a mid lane Shadow Shaman, you pop your ultimate and you take the tower. So it looks like it is going to be a trade. TMT does rotate over to the enemy jungle to maximize his GPM, as well as to also take farm away from the enemy team. But considering the fact that I haven't been making any use of the jungle, looks like Alucard actually now has skilled the Arcane Aura. So Blokes of Deceit is finally calling on to the fact that if she skills an aura, even if she is going to be completely AFK for the rest of the team, she's providing that aura. Shai Halud actually turns out he did skill that Reincarnate, so now he could be caught in a bit of a sticky situation, especially if he dies with no support nearby. Cox is the only one nearby. Shai Halud could be taking his death. Stands his ground, they accident, and unfortunately stack the CCs on top of each other. Alex does have Chronosphere, so he could turn this into another kill, especially since he can catch out Cox as well. He does. They commit to going on Shai Halud. No TTE support coming for the rest of his team. Cox backs away. Can't really do anything. Alex does get that last right click in with that Mask of Madness, and that's a 4-minute window they had it in. Yeah, nah, mate. It's very slow to respond, and that cost them a lot. They could have picked up 2 very easy kills there. Had Broda rotated in with that Purification, Alex would have died. Also would have been a secure kill on NRC. Was dropping very low. Death Prophet opting to go for a Yule Scepter rush. Actually looks like she's choosing not to go for the 4th point in Crypt Swarm. This is a little bit of a misplay. Usually the rationale behind only keeping 3 points and maxing out the Exorcism is to increase your mana efficiency, since you're not going to be fighting early on, or rather you don't want to fight early on. And you want that maxed out Exorcism so that way your level 1 ultimate isn't completely useless, since you really need 3 to 4 points of the Exorcism before it's really worthwhile, especially with the fact that the cooldown's been increased. But that being said, you do need that 4th point in the Crypt Swarm, especially once you've picked up the 4 points of the Exorcism, because it does do a huge amount of damage, and with that 4-second cooldown, you're going to be fighting very often. The amount of damage you're able to output looks like we do have a quick pause coming out. Alucard still AFK, well that being said, he hasn't been kicked, so it looks like he's just sitting there. So he's got the clarities as well as TP scroll, really not too sure what's going on here. But the Blokes of Deceit, they're playing around it. Not really working out too well for them, just due to the fact that, yeah, nah mate, they've got the numbers advantage every single fight. When you're playing 4v5, you're constantly going to be eating a lot more disables, a lot more damage, because you're not able to spread it out across the rest of your team. Because they don't have the CM to provide that extra form of lockdown, it's going to be very difficult for them to control the Phantom Assassin, who's now picked up Phase Drum, so she's incredibly mobile and fairly beefy. Looks like PA going for a bit of a split build. You usually see only 1 point in the Blink Strike, and then you max out the Blur, so you can man fight a lot more effectively. But that being said, the extra mobility you get from that second point in Blink Strike does work quite nicely. Since Blokes of Deceit actually don't have too much right-click damage to be worried about, UGTFO could actually go in for a kill right now if he ravages. NRC taking a fair amount of damage, does get a great fissure block over on Cox as well as King Killer. Cox fingers Hugamugu, uses that mech to keep himself alive. They are able to find a kill over on Cox. King Killer, close inside the repel. Broder taking a fair amount of damage from the Exorcism. TMT should be to clean him up. They lose 2 for 1. Alex, he's got Chronosphere coming off cooldown in 2 more seconds. He could look to leap in, catch out UGTFO and turn around for another kill. TMT finds another of the Exorcism. Yeah, nah, mate. Despite going into that fight 5v4, going in one at a time, getting split by the fissure, and not being able to prioritize the Death Prophet downtime, they chose to focus the Necrophos, but he was able to get that mech off. And so it really goes to showcase the power of the Necrophos. The reason why he has been seeing a bigger appearance in the competitive scene is the fact that once that mech comes online, he's got such an obscene amount of sustainability in these fights, and much like the Death Prophet, Necrophos is a hero that forces the enemy team to have to prioritize him. Shai Halud opting to go for Blink Dagger before his threats, and now he has the Blink Ray Fire Blast to initiate these ganks. TMT, gotta be very careful. King Killer just dives on in. Broder's got the repel at the ready, repels him a little bit late. NRC using that Fissure to bodyguard TMT. He now has that Yule Scepter, so he could use that to keep himself alive if they decide to jump him. The reason why Yule Scepter is such a great pickup on the Death Prophet is the fact that when you use your Exorcism, the damages increase the closer you are to them, just because the spirits have to return to you before they can launch another attack. And so if King Killer jumps on TMT and the Exorcism is up, he could cyclone himself up into the air for the 1.5 seconds, the 2.5 seconds. And while he's cycloned, King Killer is still going to be eating all the spirit damage, since that actually is going to force him back. Since if he decides to sit around, he's going to be eating an absurd amount of damage from the spirits, so that when TMT does drop back down to the ground, it's going to get another Crypt Swarm off, and that's going to be enough to be able to bring him down. So it's a great way. It's a great item that works especially well against the melee cores of Yeah Nah Mate. But if we have a look at the gold and experience difference, 3,000 gold lead for Yeah Nah Mate, owing to the fact that they've got more kills, and as well as for last hits, their cores are farming a lot more effectively. If we have a look at experience, it's actually almost equal, 1,000 experience going in the favour of Yeah Nah Mate. That's due to the fact they lost that last fight. 3,000 experience going to the hands of Blokes of Deceit from those 2 kills. So because they're playing from behind, every trade you're able to get is going to be a lot more efficient for your team. Shai Halud, got to be a little bit careful now, as it looks like the Blokes of Deceit, they're ready to rumble, they're all rotating in mid. King Killer with the repel, jumps in with some assistance from Shai Halud, doesn't have to reincarnate, he eats the Chronosphere, he's going to be taking a quick death. Alex, dancing around, Guardian Angel now flies, we've got the Echo Slam coming in from NRC. Alex standing his ground against King Killer, but King Killer smacks him down, that blur damage is doing a huge amount of work to be able to evade the vast majority of those right clicks. And King Killer is going to be going for the Cranium Dash. It's a very conventional mid lane Phantom Assassin mid game build. If we have a look at the fight recap, they trade core for core. But that being said, Yeah Nah Mate, they expend a lot more ultimates. That was without an Exorcism, that was without a Reaper side. Yeah Nah Mate just barely able to salvage that fight off the back of a Guardian Angel, as well as an inopportune Ravage. Never mind, looks like Ravage wasn't even expended for that fight. So the fact that they had to blow Guardian Angel, and they blew it a little bit too late, so they actually weren't able to use it to mitigate the damage from that Chronosphere. But that being said, Kim was able to utilize it to go for a kill. On the faces forward, Hugamuga probably going to be opting to go for Treads to something like a Aghanim Scepter for his team to be able to fight effectively. Otherwise, if he decides to play a lot more defensively against the Yeah Nah Mate, if he decides to go for a very early Shiva's Guard, that will do a massive amount of work Since the Wraith King as a strength hero, it doesn't have much attack speed to work with. UGTFO, no Blink Dagger on him. Just picked up a casual Perseverance. Now he's going to be farming up those Ancients, and that's going to give him his Blink Dagger. And that could be the X factor that Name really need to be to try to seal this next engagement. If they could have that Blink Ravage on these important heroes. NRC, TPing home, going to be spotted out by Ken. But Shai Halud blinks into and traps himself in the tree line just so he can set up the Ken. And with that Ray Fire Blast, King Killer is able to stab him down. We've now got the Blink Dagger available for UGTFO being couriered out to him. So Name, they do have the teamfight advantage for that next engagement. Especially since Shai Haludi's got that level 2 Reincarnate available. In terms of gold and net worth, he actually has tapered off quite heavily just because he's been spending so much time farming and he has died twice without making too much of an impact in these engagements. So the fact that he wasted his first Reincarnate really has come to bite him in the ass. King Killer, Cranium Basher almost available, he's got it about 17 more gold. So you've also got the fact that PA has a double damage and a Cranium Basher with the Repel and potentially the Guardian Angel. Kin should be able to deal enough damage with a lockdown and kill Huga Muga at the start of the fight. So mate, in this particular game, because there's a Necrophos and a Death Prophet, you want to focus the Necrophos above all else, just because he can constantly heal TMT with the Death Pulse as well as the fact that he's the mech carrier. So you really can't afford to leave him alive. Whereas you can mitigate some of the exorcism damage with the Guardian Angel. King Killer going in deep against Huga Muga. No Bash Procs yet. He doesn't actually have the Cranium Basher. He's got to create up to him now. But he's able to create enough space for his team to be able to take that tier 1 tower. So King Killer doing what he does best, playing way too aggressively, diving past the enemy tower. This time working out because he's got the Repel and the double damage. No one wants to mess with him. Unfortunately, the Repel does purge off his DD. He gets that first hit bash over in TMT. Yule cyclones himself into the air, but eats a Purification, so that's the drawback of that. And Kin with that coup de grace crit. Styles all over him. And TMT, any of that spree does feed a huge amount of gold over to that PA. And that's the last area you want to be feeding gold to, especially since you've got that Omni Knight PA combination. Mate, they do have an amazingly powerful late game lineup. Because you've got the Wraith King who's able to provide the Lifesteal Aura to King Killer, and he's able to draw a lot of fire with that Reincarnate as well as with that Blink. And then you've got Broden to be able to ensure that his 2 carries are able to stay alive with either the Repel or the Guardian Angel. Looks like he actually opted for a split build, so he's not choosing to max out that Purification because he realizes that he's been fairly EXP starved. He really needs more points in the Repel to be effective. UGTFO goes in with a huge Ravage, catches out 3. Huga Muga locked in place, forced to use the mech on himself. Dunny taking a death, as well as NRC, who got smacked down before he could get an Echo Slam off. Alex has got the Chronosphere available. TMT is coming in with the Exorcism, catches Grave Silence over on Ken Killer. Goes in for the Chronosphere, unfortunately gets juked by UGTFO. Turned into a frog by Cox, and he gets impaled to the ground. Shai Halud gets reincarnated by TMT. He's flat up in the air. He's panicking, he gets knocked down by Tidehunter. UGTFO, with that great blink, salvages that fight. Prevents the Chronosphere coming out from Alex, really does cost them that engagement. He wasn't even able to chrono as Cox, quick to react with the Hex into the Impale. NRC walks in for the fissure, gets completely torn apart by King Killer. And Phantom Assassin with no death to her name, reaching the point of critical mass, where she can now effectively go 1v5 against the enemy team because you've got that Repel, because you've got that level 2 coup de grace, soon to be level 3. With that maxed out Blink Strike and with the Cranium Basher, you're not getting away from the big bad PA. Alucard, the level 1 AFK Crystal Maiden, goes in, instantly dies to King Killer. Alex throws out a Chrono, Cox actually walks into it, should be the bring down brother, and Shai Halud, no reincarnated this time. Cox going to be kicking himself, he wasn't ranged for the Impale. With the Reaper Sight, they are able to bring down King Killer, they end a huge spree, and mate, huge throws coming up from them. Cox trying to TP himself away, but NRC just punches him down. UGTFO, the only survivor. That's a Blink Dagger now available for NRC. Alucard, from that fight, picks up 2.5 levels. So it looks like he could be getting micro by his teammates. Not really too sure what the deal is with the fact that Crystal Maiden hasn't really been doing anything. I mean, I know a lot of people do joke that that you pick Crystal Maiden just for the aura. Looks like Blokes of Deceit are taking that as literal truth. But with that fight, if we have a look at the golden experience graph, they are starting to climb Mount Everest. 10,000 gold lead, now they're going to go to 7.5, so 2,500 gold swing into their hands with the experience, which is going to be much more important, especially since they need the level 2 ultimates for the Faceless Void, as well as for the Earthshaker if they really want to start Tony's engagements. The level 2 Echo Slam, absolute world of difference from the level 1, especially because you're going to be having that maxed out Aftershock combo with it, And with that Blink Dagger NRC, he's now got everything he needs to rumble. So Blokes of Deceit, they actually do have the superior initiation, because you've got the Blink Echo Slam with the Fissure, follow up with the Chronosphere, and then the Death Prophet and the Necrophos kind of wade into the fight and start swinging around dealing damage. Alucard, still alive, no boots up on him, so the Crystal Maiden 22 minutes into the game. Not really doing too crash shot, looks like it's actually just going to be hiding in the tree line. So Alucard, not really too sure what is going on here. The Blokes of Deceit, maybe it's 3 next to 3 meta for me. Going in for a 4v5 strat. Cox, Tread's picked up on the line. It's a very unconventional boot choice for the line. You usually see Tranquil boots or Arcane if you happen to have a fair amount of gold. He actually does reveal the fact he's got an Invis root and TMT. TMT would know this, especially if he realized that he'd gotten body blocks. UGTFO goes in, then there's the Hex. Cox actually hitting creeps. He eats the Chronosphere, so I'm not really too sure what they're doing there. UGTFO, he has to get that Ravage off. They're unable to get that Ravage. They turn if they do. Gets a Ravage on 3, Impale flies out, never mind a Ravage on 4, blinks away from that engagement. And that's a wasted Chronosphere in exchange for the Ravage. Shai Halud goes in, he's got the Reincarnate, he doesn't give a damn if he dies. Purification doing work on NRC, Echo Slam used earlier, King Killer locks down Huga Muga, smacking him down. Crystal Maiden, Alucard just dies to Brodo, who just takes pity on the Crystal Maiden and smacks her face in. Shai Halud thinking of going in for this, still no Treads, opting to go for Maelstrom above Treads. Very strange boot choices on mate, with a Brown Boots Wraith King and Treads picked up on Cox. The reason why you usually don't go for Treads is you want to get your Blink Dagger as soon as possible, so the Tranquil Boots fulfills your early needs. Since Lion, biggest weaknesses, very slow, very low armor, so it makes him very squishy. Tranquil Boots fulfills all those needs. Means that if you also do have to take a little bit of damage in the fight, you've got the Tranquil Boots regen. Either put you back into full. They are able to take that tier 2 tower. They did lose a Reincarnate as well as a Ravage for that, but because there's no Chronosphere available, mate could feel confident in trying to breach high ground, but that being said, Exorcism is available. The last time they did this, it cost them a huge amount, so the Reaper side, Exorcism combination being able to do a fair amount. Exorcism has been popped, they decide to run away right now. Actually, Guardian Angel been committed for the retreat. Shai Halud turns in, they might actually look to go in on TMTs. The coup de grace stifling dagger crit. King Killer cuts down the Death Prophet. Blokes, Alex leaps in, he doesn't have a Chronosphere, so he's just sitting there swinging that big stick, not really able to do too much with it. Shai Halud playing balls to the wall, blinks in just for the stun, sets up for King Killer who cuts down Alex. Cox, frostbitten, but he's got a Blink Dagger, so he's more than happy to eat that. And with that, they're able to take a very decisive fight. Broder a little bit hasty with that Guardian Angel, but it did pay off for them. The RNGesus of King Killer with that coup de grace stifling dagger crit really did, helping them win that fight. We've got a buyback coming here from TMT, but he doesn't have an Exorcism. And Death Prophet without an Exorcism is one sad Banshee. All she could really do is spam her Q, not going to be enough to be able to turn this, but that being said, she's holding on to their racks. Mate, they're playing it safe, they don't have Ravage, they don't have Reincarnate, they're going to decide to just back off, keep finding farm. They know that the game is quite handily in their favor, and with the way that the net worth graph is looking in their favor, if the game goes late, they're more than happy to take it there. UGTFO, he's got the Refresh Orb available, and because he's got level 2 Ravage as opposed to level 3, he's got enough to be the double Ravage and then throw an Anchor Smash, as opposed to just having enough for that double Ravage. Alucard, finally joining the game. Maybe he was grabbing some food, maybe he was in the bathroom, and maybe he forgot maybe he was playing a different game of Dota and he realized that this is the one he's meant to be playing. Dual monitors can do some tricks on your mind. That being said, better late than never, says Alucard, finally utilizing the Crystal Maiden jungle efficiency 26 minutes into the game with 2 last hits to an aim and 2 deaths. Level 4.5. Hashtag just support things. Vladimir's offering actually picked up by King Killer. Very unconventional item to be picked up on the Phantom Assassin in this lineup because you've got the Wraith King as well as the Omni Knight. You want them to pick up the Vladimir's offering, and you want to go for an Abyssal Blade because you've got the Repel. All you really need to work on is damage. For King Killer, with the Sergeant Yasha going full Pinoy, showing off his Southeast Asian roots while residing in Little Old New Zealand. With the Sergeant Yasha as well as the Basher, he's got an obscene amount of chasing capability, but that being said, SNY this game is a huge waste of gold. It's not really the best item choice you could have gone for, because you could have had your Abyssal Blade, and the difference between the Abyssal Blade on a PA with a level 3 coup de grace and a PA with the Sergeant Yasha is absolutely staggering, just because the coup de grace crit with the Abyssal Blade, that's about 1.1k damage. If you could drop that on Huga Muga, on top of the bash you get from the Abyssal Blade active, or on TMT, that wins you the fight instantly. You take out their big anchor. TMT gotta be very careful if he can get first hit bash. He does! King Killer should buy a lottery ticket. What are the odds coming in from him? Stifling Dagger, Blink Strike with the first hit bash. Cranium Basher is pseudo-random, but that being said, getting 3 first hit bashes in this game. TMT on a scale of 1 to the Dead Sea, gonna be a little bit salty from that. NRC helping Alucard find some farms with supports, really hand-holding each other. NRC wants to go pick up his Arcane Boot, so that way he has enough mana to be able to blink, Echo Slam, Fissure, and have enough mana to, so that if he stays alive long enough, he can throw out another Fissure to maybe help out his teammates. Aegis and a smoke rotation now coming in from mate. Looks like UGTFO didn't quite get the memo, just kind of sitting there chilling in the mid lane saying, you guys can do your thing, I'm just going to find my farm. Tidehunter could now look to go for something like a Shiva's Guard. Absolutely phenomenal pickup on the Tidehunter with the refresher roll, because you've got that double Shivas, and it means that you have enough mana to be able to utilize all your abilities twice. So the Blink, Ravage, Spit with the Gush, then the Anchor Smash, Frost Blast, then Refresh. You actually deal an obscene amount of teamfight damage on your own. Especially with the fact that you could Gush 2 targets to help Kin be able to pick him off one at a time with that negative armor really working to your favor. Armlet of Medigian picked up by Shai Halud. The Sand One of the planet Arrakis, otherwise known as Dune. No Treads still on Shai Halud. Treads is a great pickup on the Wraith King because he needs any form of cheap attack speed you could get. And it does give you the cheap stats, so you could also Tread Switch to make sure that you've always got enough mana to be able to reincarnate. Alex goes in, only catches out King Killer, who's repelled and has the Aegis. He says, come at me, bro, I've got Blur. NRC goes in with the Echo Slam, only catches 1. Shai Halud, he's got reincarnate. Brody actually gets Reaper Slice, doesn't die. UGTFO throws out the first Ravage, he's got to refresh and throw out the second. Actually, he's holding on to it. King Killer. Looks like the Aegis was expanded. GG's been called. Cox steals the kill with the finger. Looks like Alucard was in that game, so was an intentional play for Blokes of Deceit to have a Crystal Maiden sit there in the fountain for the first 20 minutes. Could have been some next level plays coming up from them. Maybe it's because they thought the CM would feed, so that way she'd at least provide the aura, but the fact that Alucard didn't even skill the aura makes it a bit of a questionable decision coming in from Blokes of Deceit. But that being said, great teamwork coming in from mate. This is a combination that I've run a lot of times in the past, the Phantom Assassin, Omni Knight, in conjunction with the Wraith King and another tanky core, usually something like a Centaur Warrunner, or in this case a Tidehunter, because it gives you that massive team fight. So Blokes of Deceit, where they went wrong, the Crystal Maiden sitting in the fountain for 20 minutes, not really pointing fingers, but Alucard wasn't really too sure what his sole purpose was that game. They could have, if they decided to go for a 4v5 lineup, at least he could have skilled his aura, and maybe sat in the jungle getting some experience and gold that way, so that way if he's not going to participate in ganks or fights, he could at least buy items to give to his teammates. He could buy salves and have them courier it out. He could buy TP scrolls for his allies. But by just sitting there in the fountain, not even skilling aura, really did cost him the game. He didn't do anything. And because Blokes of Deceit, they weren't able to contest runes at all. The only time TMT got a rune was when it was completely uncontested and he happened to find a regen rune. Every single other rune he was denied by either King Killer or by Broder constantly running around the map. So that looks like that'll be it. We will be taking a quick pause before game number 2, so stay tuned. We'll be right back for more.